Well, hello and a really warm welcome to you from the offices of Christchurch Baptist Church. Well, today is Tuesday the 24th of March and it's the day after the evening before. The evening when at 8:30 we heard Boris Johnson address the nation to tell us that social isolation and social distancing restrictions needed to become even tighter. And my guess is, like me, you've spent this morning and probably some of the night, I would guess too, trying to work out what the implications of that are for you. How will you stay connected to those who you know and love under restrictions like the ones that we're now facing? How will you manage everyday life? How will you even manage your work, your business under such circumstances? If you joined us on Sunday morning, you would have heard me speak very briefly about the early church. And we spoke about how the early church, as it's described in Acts, was a gathered community. A church that celebrated its togetherness, a church that really enjoyed being in one another's company, a church that gathered daily to eat and to share possessions and to break bread. And we hear about that early church, that the church grew as a consequence of them being gathered. But then as you read on in the early parts of Acts, you get to Acts chapter 8, and you discover that the church, instead of being gathered, has to be scattered. And they become scattered not because of the coronavirus, but because of persecution. And there's an amazing story in there. And it's the story of a church who, even though their mode of being church, instead of being gathered and being scattered, continue to do the work of mission and of ministry. In fact, what happens in the early church is, rather than the church declining as a result of them being scattered, they actually experience new growth and they experience mission and ministry being taken to places where otherwise the gospel may never have gone if they'd remained gathered. As I sit here in the church offices today, it's strangely quiet. All of our staff team now are having to work from home as a consequence of last night's restrictions. That changes the way that we're doing church as a staff team. All of that sense of busyness and the buzz and the craziness that so often seems to go on in and around the life of these buildings as it reflects the ministry of the church suddenly seems to have gone. And there's a stillness and there's a calm. But I'm so encouraged to know that even though there's still and there's calm and there's quietness in these buildings, the church is continuing to do mission and ministry, not as a gathered church, but as a scattered church. As a staff team, we've been gathering together, not physically, but on Zoom, which is a video conferencing platform, every single morning. And we've been sharing together in Pete Gregg's 24/7 prayer ministry, Lectio 365 app. And this morning, Pete was telling the story of the woman who touched the hem of Jesus' garment, and instantly she was healed from her bleeding. And Jesus, realizing that some of his power had been drained from him, wasn't content just to move on and not recognize who this woman was, but he scanned the crowd and he wanted to know her name. He wanted to seek her out. Why? Because Jesus was passionate about making a connection that honored the dignity of another person. And this morning, Pete Gregg challenged us around what it looks like to stay connected in a time of isolation. And I want to continue to encourage us as a church, and it's been so good to hear stories of how this has already been happening, to find ways of staying connected. Connection beyond just a text message, connection beyond just an email. Connection which honours the dignity of others who we've come to know and love. And I want to encourage you to continue picking up the phone to speak truth and life and to encourage one another in your daily living. We have so many opportunities to be creative, and thank you for sharing stories of how that's already happening here in the life of the church. Please do join us on Sunday morning. We're going to live stream our service again on Sunday. David will be speaking in the next in our sermon series, The Joy of Knowing. And also we've got a special video piece that we're going to be sharing with you, which Jonathan Vieira has recorded for us, which we're allowed to live stream. So join us if you can, to be encouraged, to be blessed as we pray together for ourselves and for our nation. And can I encourage you to keep on finding ways of staying connected during these strange days. May God bless you. Don't forget to keep your hands clean and make sure that you keep your heart full of the things of God and full of the love and the joy and the knowledge of knowing that you're staying connected to one another during these strange times. God bless you. We hope to see you very soon.
God bless you and keep